Good evening and welcome to Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, your place for a fun conversation about horror movies. Tonight we'll look at a pretty recent release that involves a bear and a lot of cocaine. We'll also talk about a couple of other films you can stream, one featuring a gigantic shark and one that, well, is a lot like Scream. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're glad to have you here. Now pour yourself a drink and sit back, because here we go.
Am I in the right place?
It's drugs, I think.
I've always wanted to see a bear in real life.
First humpbacks in Iceland, and now this.
We have such good luck in nature.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Excuse me, is the ranger in?
I'm wearing the stuff.
But I gotta go pee. Go outside. Why do I skip school with you? You're bossier than the teachers.
What'd you see?
It's demented or something.
This is definitely cocaine.
There you go.
It's like cocaine Christmas.
But there was a bear. A really terrible bear.
A bear?
You got a Dusty Beaver here, Ranger.
Yeah, well, I'm working on that.
No, bears are very peaceful creatures. You must have done something to upset it.
Whatever you do, don't
Run!
Oh no! Oh no!
I said don't run! Stop! Stop!
Can I say something without you getting angry with me?
Shoot it! Shoot it!
Let's get into our featured film review for the evening. Tonight we are going to talk about this film. It is called Cocaine Bear. Yes, Cocaine Bear. I found Cocaine Bear on Amazon Prime, included with my Amazon Prime subscription. This is a horror comedy that was released in the year 2023, so fairly recent, released earlier this year. Directed by Elizabeth Banks, who has been in everything in the world as far as comedies go. From TV, you've seen her in 30 Rock and Scrubs. From movies, you've seen her in the Pitch Perfect movies. You've seen her all over the place in comedy movies. The cast includes Kerry Russell, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Christian Convery, and Alden Ehrenreich. Let's get into what to expect if you're going to sit down and watch Cocaine Bear. If you're going to sit down to watch Cocaine Bear, what you should expect is a very funny comedy that loosely recreates the style of man versus creature films such as Jaws. Now, Cocaine Bear is a much less serious film than Jaws, but nonetheless you can see the influence of Jaws as you watch Cocaine Bear. If you like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, you'll probably like Cocaine Bear. If you like Zombievers, you'll probably like Cocaine Bear. Basically, if you like gory man versus nature kind of comedies, this is right up your alley. Anyway, let's get into calibrating our sights for this film. This is the scale we like to use. On the far left side of the scale, we have very campy films such as Jason X. On the far right side of the scale, we have very serious films such as The Silence of the Lambs. As always, this scale is not intended to rate the quality of the film, but to indicate what your mindset needs to be going into the film in order to enjoy it fully. Cocaine Bear, it's not too hard to figure out, but just to put it on the scale for you, Cocaine Bear, you need to be over on the very campy side of the spectrum. It is an outright comedy. The characters play things a little bit straight, but that's part of the humor of the film. So, very campy comedy, Cocaine Bear. Now, before we go any farther, we need to get into our vocabulary lesson. Our vocabulary lesson, of course, is the part of the show where we discuss new and innovative words and phrases in an effort to stay ahead of social media bots and algorithms that would otherwise try to ban our conversation. We've got 2 terms this week, the review terms from earlier seasons. Our first term is instabinate. That's instabinate with a B. Instabinate is a verb meaning to remove one or more of a character's digits through the application of a mechanical process. Now, sounding very similar to instabinate, but meaning something different is instumpinate. Instumpinate is a verb meaning to remove one or more of a character's limbs through the application of a mechanical process. So if you remove fingers, you're instabinating. If you remove the hand or the arm, you're instumpinating. Anyway, that is your vocabulary lesson for this week. Please keep these terms in mind. They will become important later in the episode. Let's get into a summary of this film. In this film, a drug smuggler drops numerous bags full of cocaine from an overloaded plane while over the mountains, but dies when his parachute does not open. So he pitches his cargo, goes to follow after the cargo, but hits his head, knocks himself unconscious, never opens the chute as he falls. So you have the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, covered in duffel bags full of cocaine. An American black bear finds one of the duffel bags, opens it up, and eats one of the parcels of cocaine, thus becoming crazed and ravenous. Meanwhile, middle schoolers Dee Dee and Henry have skipped school to go to the national park to paint the waterfall. Dee Dee is an artist. She wants to paint the waterfall. She needs to do it during the afternoon when the light is the best. Anyway, Dee Dee's mother has no idea that Dee Dee is skipping school. Dee Dee's mother, Sari, travels to the park after she's informed that her daughter has skipped school, and soon discovers that the kids, plus a host of other characters, have crossed paths with the bear. This is a bit of an ensemble comedy. It's a fairly large cast, but it is well played and funny. Anyway, that brings us to our villain profile. Our villain for this film is the Cocaine Bear. And there she is, climbing a tree. Keep that in mind, it'll become important later. She belongs to the class of cocaine-addicted American black bear. Her special powers are that her crazed, ravenous behavior is combined with a nose for finding more cocaine. Yes, she spends the entire film looking for more and more cocaine. Signature weapons? Well, she's a bear. She has teeth and claws. That's really all she needs. Plus, as you can see, she can climb trees. So let's get into the things Steve liked about this film. The premise of the film is original and very funny. The cast is also very funny, and they walk the fine line between playing their parts straight and between outright comedy. So they play their parts serious enough to make it funny. In part, the film plays out like an homage to Jaws, especially the scenes at the beginning when the first hiker is being eaten. The pacing is good, never letting the story drag but without feeling rushed. And the film has horror movie moments but never loses sight of being a comedy. So there are some gory bits to the film, but they pass quickly and the film never loses sight of being a comedy. Now, things that could have been better about this film. I liked this film. There's not much I've got to criticize about it, but a few things that someone might take an issue with, if not necessarily me. First of all, some of the CGI animation is very obvious. I will not say that it's poor. The CGI animation is fine in terms of its quality, but it's just some of it is very obviously computer graphics and not a real bear on screen with people at the same time. Now, the premise of the film is obviously unrealistic despite being based upon a true story. This is based upon a true story of somebody who really did throw duffel bags full of cocaine out of his plane, really did die when parachuting down, and a bear really did eat one of the keys of cocaine, but in real life the bear ODs and dies on the cocaine and does not become a ravenous cocaine-addicted bear. The sight of kids experimenting with cocaine may rub some the wrong way in this film, and the kids, I guess experimenting in the literal sense of the word, neither of them has any idea what cocaine is or what to do with it. So it ends up kind of being their saving grace that they think you're supposed to eat it and immediately spit it out again. The kids swearing may rub some of you the wrong way. The kids, especially Henry, has a pretty foul mouth in this movie, in part because he's sampled the cocaine and is a little bit high on the cocaine. Let's get to Steve's scorecard for this film. In terms of kills, we counted 10. Bare breasts, we counted none. De-noggening, how many characters lose their heads in this film? I counted 2. Now that's with an asterisk. One of these is a all-in-all cleaned out de-noggening. One of these is performed by a gunshot. Instubinatings, our vocabulary term, our first vocabulary term, I counted 2. Not only 2, but 2 non-consecutive digits, which is one of the jokes of the film. Instumpinatings, sounding like instubinatings, but instumpinatings meaning to take an entire limb. I counted 3, possibly more. Evisceration, I counted 1. And finally, kids with the munchies, because they do sample the cocaine, so one of the kids does have the munchies. You've got 1. But that's not all you get. With your viewing of Cocaine Bear, you get a number of bonus features, including an awesome 1980s soundtrack. You get a Slim Whitman sighting. Well, sort of. You get the sound of Slim Whitman yodeling as part of the soundtrack. You get an AMC Pacer, and an AMC Pacer deserves a mention if you see one running in a movie. You get Dusty Beaver action. Yes, there is a Dusty Beaver joke in this film. It's pretty funny when you get down to it. You get Poofy dog action. There is a very fancy little dog in this film that is part of the overall story of the film. You get Cocaine Bear cubs, so it's not just Mama Cocaine Bear, it is the cubs who become cocaine addicted. You get Ray Liotta's awesome hair. Ray Liotta passed away earlier this year, but this is possibly his final film or one of his final films. Anyway, he has awesome 1980s hair going on in this film. It's like cocaine Christmas, one of the characters says in this film. And words of wisdom, in case you're ever pursued by a bear, Henry helpfully points out that bears can't climb trees. At which point another character who has also climbed a tree points out, of course they can. Bears can, of course, climb trees. At which point Henry says, then why are you up here? So, legitimate question from Henry. Well, if they can climb trees, why are you up here? So let's get to Steve's final score for this film. We're going to give it 3.5 paws out of 4. I really enjoyed this film. I'm going to say it's a very funny horror comedy that keeps the pace moving and manages an ensemble cast without becoming rushed or confused. Elizabeth Banks does a nice job of managing the ensemble cast in this film. The film is funny. It does have some graphic horror moments to it, but never loses sight of being a comedy. If you like Zombievers, you'll enjoy this one. If you like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, you'll enjoy this one. So I enjoyed this film very much. Your mileage may vary, but that is Cocaine Bear, available on Amazon Prime, and that is our featured film review for this week. And now a word from our benevolent overlords at PBDC TV, your nightly heartbeat of horror.
Oakhurst Lunatic Asylum, case number 094. Dr. Mortimer Thornfield recording. Patient 04278, Stephen Peakity Cat. Often referring to himself as Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. Diagnosis, Morbus Organizus Disorder, or MOD. Observation, patient exhibits an artistically delightful and disturbed mind. The patient's pursuit of selling t-shirts and merchandise that celebrate the macabre and the horrifying has led to the diagnosis of Morbus Organizus Disorder. a condition that melds artistic madness with a twisted appreciation for the darker side of cinema. Treatment plan being that the patient's products are of a perfect embodiment of their twisted artistic vision and the unique nature of the condition. Procurement of said merchandise is recommended.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
In the southeast of America, in the quiet town of Quinton, located in Walker County, Alabama, a nightmare is about to unfold. To young friends embarking on a road trip, little did they know they were about to stumble upon a horrifying tale that would forever haunt their souls. They had no idea that their journey would lead them to the infamous Spook Trail family, deranged haunted maze makers known for their twisted ways and insatiable hunger to scare. But the question remains, will anyone make it out alive? Brace yourself, for the frights are about to begin.
Mayday! Mayday! Can you hear us? We need help. I repeat, we need help.
Oakhurst Lunatic Asylum, case number 1972. Dr. Mortimer Thornfield recording. Patients 0485993 through 0485997, known as the Psycho Bunnies. Their true identities are unknown to me at this time. Diagnosis: Eccentricus malevolentis disorder, or EMD. The patients seem to have inclinations of a twisted and unconventional artistic talents, exhibiting a disconcerting combination of insanity, disorderliness, and a penchant for the macabre. Observation: their collective behavior and unyielding commitment to selling t-shirts and merchandise that revel in the darker aspects of existence have led to the diagnosis of eccentricus malevolentis disorder, a condition that merges artistic eccentricity with a delightfully wicked sense of humor. Treatment plan: the patient's relentless obsession with creating and selling t-shirts adorned with sinister slogans, macabre imagery, and morbid humor is a defining symptom of their condition. Therefore, procurement of said merchandise is recommended.
Now, back to the show.
Well, we've reached the end of another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, but before we go, as is our tradition, we're going to take just a few minutes to talk about some of the other stuff I watched this week. This week I watched a film called The Black Demon. Yes, look at that poster, folks. It's a shark movie. Anyway, this is a 2023 giant shark horror film. I found this on Amazon Prime. It may be available in other places as well. In this film, oil company inspector Paul Sturgis is sent to a small Mexican town near Baja to inspect an old oil rig. Paul's job is to determine whether the oil rig has enough life left in it to justify refurbishment or if it should be decommissioned. Paul brings along his wife, his teenage daughter, and his young son, hoping to turn the trip into a vacation for them. His thought is that the inspection will just take a few hours, then they can spend the rest of the weekend vacationing in the nearby town. Now, problem. Paul is surprised to find the nearby town decrepit and decaying, with the remaining locals suspicious and unfriendly to outsiders. So things are not going well in the environment around the oil rig. Anyway, Paul travels to the oil rig and discovers that it is in a similar condition, decrepit and leaking oil, with only 2 workers on board and their dog. So, naturally, while he is performing the inspection, Paul's family runs afoul of some of the locals and flee, eventually taking a boat and fleeing to the oil rig, where, of course, they find themselves the captive of a 60-foot shark with supernatural powers. Not enough that it's a 60-foot megalodon, it's a 60-foot megalodon with supernatural powers. So, some things about this film. You get giant sharks eating boats if you sit down to watch this film. You get giant sharks eating people. You get giant sharks ramming the oil rig. You get divers and diving bell action. And you get lots of Aztec imagery owing to the supernatural origins of the 60-foot megalodon. Overall, on the pro side, hey, it's a movie about a giant shark. There's always something good about a movie involving a giant shark. You can always find a reason to enjoy a giant shark film, even if it's just to make fun of it. You can always enjoy a giant shark film. On the downside, this is not a good film, and it's predictable and formulaic, even grading on the shark film curve. So, not necessarily bad, but predictable, formulaic, not a good film. Overall, I would recommend that you avoid this one unless you're intentionally seeking out bad shark movies. Also this week, was able to watch a film called Killer Book Club. Now, as you may gather from the poster here, this is a Spanish horror film released in 2023. Found this on Netflix, and the Netflix version is English dubbed. It may be available in Spanish on Netflix as well. If you are fluent in Spanish, you might want to go that route. That way you don't have the distraction of the English dubbing over the Spanish speaking. Anyway, in this film, 8 college friends who are obsessed with horror novels form a book club. When one member of the club is wronged by a professor, of course, the club plans an elaborate prank to get revenge. Naturally, the prank goes wrong, the professor dies, and the 8 swear themselves to secrecy. So you've got I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then at this point, it turns into Scream. So basically, you take a ripoff of Scream, throw in a little bit of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and you have Killer Book Club. So this is an entirely perfunctory entry into the self-aware horror slasher genre. It's not terrible, but it's not revolutionary either. At its best, it's an overly derivative descendant of Scream. It's not too hard to figure out who the killer is. And of course, there's a twist at the end. Now, you may have trouble figuring out the twist at the end because they don't really give you a whole lot leading up to the twist to let you figure that out. There's not as much backstory provided as probably they should if they want you to figure out the twist. On the other hand, they probably didn't want you to figure out the twist, so they had a twist to throw at you at the end. Anyway, on the pro side, if you are a fan of the Scream franchise, this one might entertain you. It does have some suspense to it. It does have some interesting kills to it. On the con side, it is derivative, it is predictable, and it is distracting because of the English dubbing over the Spanish language. So the verdict on this one is, I would say it's not a bad film, but not a memorable one either. It may entertain a Scream fan. You know who you are. If you're a fan of Scream, you might want to give this one a try. Don't watch this one if you're looking for something really original or revolutionary. If you're just in the mood for just a run-of-the-mill slasher film, this fills the bill as well as anything else. Anyway, that is Killer Book Club, and that is the other stuff I watched this week. That brings us to the end of another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. If you did enjoy the show, then please check us out on social media. You can find Steve the Cat on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or X, or whatever it is they're calling Twitter now. So please stop by and hit that subscribe button. Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat is available exclusively through the PBDC Collective Incorporated, now legally incorporated and still your heartbeat of horror. You can find us on the web at psychobunnydc.com, or you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, and Discord. Now, the Discord site is for members only, so if you're interested, please go to psychobunnydc.com and click the link for an invitation. We'll be back again in 2 weeks to talk about some more horror films, so we hope to see you then. It's sure to be a lot of fun, so make sure to join us every other Monday night at 10 p.m. That's all for now, so until next time, thank you for joining us and have a great week.